The story is called The Doctor Is In. Holly sat in the sterile peach room prescribed by her insurance. The shiny instruments were laid upon the metal table atop a white paper towel. Things she didn't and would never know the names of, names that would feel cold and uncomfortable when spoken, names that would be placed inside of her, the most intimate of spaces, seeing things she herself had never seen. Holly sat on the fall leather pastel blue recliner, naked beneath her disposable paper smock. For some reason, she felt nervous, surprisingly so, as she was well into her 30s and had been going for annuals since she first started fucking at 17. Her hands felt prickly with a light layer of sweat, and her heart rate escalated. Jumping around in her chest was she thought of as a cage, a prison that fed her body blood and life. But locked up inside were her sadness and longing, her past and future heartbreaks, cellmates between her thin skin. Holly's thoughts started their path of melancholy meandering, swimming aimlessly. Just as she felt a mysterious tear beginning the tiny trail down her cheek, a knock on the door straightened her slouched shoulders, and she wiped the tear from her face. "Come in?" The doctor made his entrance into the shoebox room, an air of authority and hurriedness surrounding his white coat persona. Holly smiled politely, and the doctor reached out of his hand, shaking her sweaty palm. "Hi, Holly." The doctor looked down at his clipboard, going over her pelvic history, her age, her body. "So you're here for your annual. Any problems, concerns?" "No." Holly tried to hold back her tears. Why was she crying? In an instant she began to panic, just a little. She felt completely exposed and strange. She wiped her eyes. "Holly, are you all right?" "Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sorry. I think I'm just tired." Holly remembered she hadn't slept well the past few nights. "Don't be sorry. Do you need to talk about anything?" The doctor's voice was soft and inviting. Holly suddenly felt relaxed when the doctor touched her naked knee. A subtle, pleasant smell surrounded him, and Holly's pussy twitched. A switch was turned. She smiled at the doctor. "No, I'm fine, really, we can start." The doctor seemed satisfied with her response and began his work. "Okay, pull down your top and lie down. We're going to start with the breast exam." "Okay." The simple direction and the doctor's mesmerizing tone comforted Holly. She pulled down the smock, exposing her breasts, her hard nipples. She was cold because the doctor's offices are always cold, and she lay down staring up into the ugly peach ceiling. Her hands were cold, like every doctor had ever touched her. She liked it, a stranger's hands feeling her skin, a man she would not normally be attracted to touching her breasts, making his way down to her cunt. Her first gynecologist was a man, and she made sure the pattern perpetuated. He touched her breasts lightly, kneading them softly with his hands, looking into the wallpaper distance. Holly glanced at his face, then looked away. The doctor then gently grabbed her arm, raised it above her head, and began feeling her right breast with his fingertips. She felt her pussy get wet, a little, and this shocked her. His one hand remained on her wrist, holding her down. The doctor then positioned her arm down by her side and pulled the other back, a little more firmly, and began touching her other breast. When he was finished, he put her left arm down by her side, hovering over her, cupping both breasts in his hands and rubbing them. He didn't look at her. Holly knew in her reaction, a sigh escaping her lips, that this was not part of a routine exam. She found a confusion coming over her, but in the exact moment, a pleasant relaxation flooded her body. She let the doctor's lingering hands and close body do what they willed, while she stared into the hidden sky. The doctor's white coat brushed against her slender waist. She felt a tickle in her pussy when the doctor pinched her nipple softly, quickly. She didn't say anything at first. She didn't believe it had happened. She thought she should be scared, horrified, but the opposite occurred. She felt fine, more than fine. The doctor sat her up and prearranged her smock, covering her breasts. He then pushed her back down without saying a word and pulled the gown up over her hips and waist, exposing her stomach and pussy. Put your feet in the stirrups and spread your legs. Holly quietly obeyed. The doctor sat between her thighs, scooped down closer. As he spoke his command, the doctor grabbed Holly by her hips and pulled her closer to him. Her pussy started to ache. She gulped, hoping the doctor didn't notice that she noticed his hands lingering on her hips, caressing the soft flesh of her ass. He then removed his hands, and Holly heard the snap of latex gloves and the moving around of metal. Holly, I'm going to begin the exam. Tell me if anything feels uncomfortable or hurts. Okay, Holly's favorite word. She was like some kind of parrot. Okay, whatever you say. Holly, I'm going to start the bimanual exam. Okay. The doctor placed the index and middle fingers of his left hand inside of her and began poking around while pressing on her lower abdomen with his right hand. She could feel his hands in contact with each other through her taut belly. Everything all right? Yes. Holly looked down at the doctor's hands inside of her, on top of her, a look of quiet concentration on his face. The doctor pulled his fingers from her. Holly's legs closed slightly, quickly, at the abrupt movement. She continued to stare into the sea of peach when she heard the sound of latex coming off skin and the trash can closing as the doctor removed and disposed of his glove. Perfect, Holly. You feel perfect. Holly didn't say anything. She nodded her reclining head. We're going to start the annual now. She heard the doctor picking up the speculum, lubricating it. Holly, spread your legs.